welcome back to another episode of Boomer Deepcuts. My name is Grant Hansen. I'm your host. So glad to have you along with us, and a big thank you to our sponsor, Kohl's RX, Kohl's Pharmacy and Home Care too. You've been working with them for your health and taking care of that with that high quality level of white glove service that they provide for you. You've been doing that with them for a long time. You can actually bring that service into your home as well. Walk-in showers, walk-in bath, like all these sort of little safe home improvement things you can do. You can do it with them. Trust them with that as well. We'll have a little bit more about that later on in the show. If you want to reach out to us here at Boomer Deep Cuts with your thoughts, if you have a request for an album or perhaps a question for our guests, go ahead and email us at deepcuts@myboomerradio.com. That's deepcuts@myboomerradio.com. And we'll flash that email up a couple of different times throughout the show. On the screen, you'll be able to find it there in case you missed it. So with all of that aside, time to welcome back Jack Swanda. And hello, Jack. How's it going?
Well, it's going quite well, and it's great to make a return visit to Grant and Deepcuts.
Ah, yes.
I love it.
Last time we did Chicago Transit Authority. Great album. Got to discover, for me, some fun new songs. Mm-hmm. And now this week we go up a little bit forward, and then we do 1973 Abandoned Luncheonette. And that is depending on how you count, 3 or 4 years after our last album with CTA.
Right, that's correct. And actually this came out late in 73, so probably more 74 would be the memories, 75. Yep. And a number of these cuts were initially released. I know that, the big one on there, She's Gone, mm-hmm. was initially released, didn't do well, and then they re-released it a couple of years later, and then it became a giant hit.
This album, by the way, the actual album that we have in studio here is given to us by Julie Hansen, and Julie... she actually bought this, I believe, around the time when it came out. So it's in great shape, by the way, because it's from mm-hmm. 1973. So mm-hmm. Thank you to Julie. If you guys, by the way, if there's like an album that you feel really, really proud of that's in your collection, and you'd like us to have it featured on the show, even if we don't play direct cuts from it, go ahead and email us, let us know, and then we could show it off for you on this fine table right here. So
yes, we would love that. While we're talking about the abandoned luncheonette, that's actually a real
truly abandoned
luncheonette. And Hall and Oates had found it on some private property and went to go take pictures of it and got ran off the property. Mm-hmm. And then it was later destroyed in a fire.
They had, I believe, if I remember correctly, permission to shoot the outside. But then they went and shot the inside as well.
Yeah,
I think it's on the back, right?
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah. There's them in the back, and that's mm-hmm. that's what they got in trouble for was going inside the actual deal. So, but really cool kind of. I don't know where the inspiration comes from for them to be like, let's call this album "The Abandoned Luncheonette," and it's from their Pennsylvania roots. I don't know. I mean,
it's just one of those, who knows?
Right.
With the interesting things that people, and the way they used to name groups.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who would have thought you'd name a group after an insect that with a black little insect that's a beetle,
right.
And
then it becomes the most famous name in music, really,
Right. Or another one that I used to love and couldn't figure out, the Lovin' Spoonful.
Oh, yeah. Where does that come from?
Where does that come?
I had no idea.
Lovin' Spoonful. A spoonful of lovin'? I don't know.
Why'd you pick this one for your second album?
Well, it was requested a couple of weeks ago on the show. A cut from that album, and it just kind of refreshed it in my mind. She's Gone is the iconic one, but the cut then that was, and one we're going to talk about later here, was the cut,
Was it the Las Vegas turnaround?
There you go, Las Vegas turnaround. Right. And I just hadn't heard that in so long. And so thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian, for requesting that. And then a day later, you come to me and say, "What album do you want to do?" And I thought, okay, well, that's top of mind right now.
I know exactly which one. Yeah.
Here we are, Abandoned Luncheonette. But
well,
I always loved it.
And Fremont Eddie, by the way, commented on one of the posts that we made about your first episode, CTA. So shout out to Fremont Eddie as well for that. But he was talking about his memories with, and this is a total sidetrack, but Steely Dan and finding some of those Steely Dan albums and stuff like that. So that's some of the great stuff. I knew we would find some of those things with the show with you guys individually in the audience, but keep some of this stuff coming, man. It's the magic of Boomer Radio and part of what we're capturing a little bit here too, I think. So
yeah, I completely agree with that. It's the music is the magic. It really is, and music speaks to our soul. and it just does certain things to the brain and connects, different parts of the brain, and it's healthy.
Yes.
It's healthy to go back and relive these memories, and encourage everybody to do that. Go back and find your favorite music from 50 years ago and revisit that, or 40, whatever it would be.
So Hall and Oates, how different are they now in 1973 and this album compared to what they sort of became in the early to mid 80s when they really started to catch on?
Well, this album was the first album that they recorded in New York City. They had moved to New York City. And they were very soulful, blue-eyed soul, and had some folk influence early in their careers. And then they became more polished. And this album is kind of the beginning of that transformation for them, which later in the '80s they took it. They took it to a very pop sound and much more polished sound. But this is more of the Philly influence, the blue-eyed soul. Almost some of it kind of has that Righteous Brothers feel to it.
Yeah.
That I think in later years, that it was the influence of the '80s. I think, especially the mid to later '80s, where music became more processed. But I think this gets them back. This is back when they had just begun that transformation. So
they've been in the news a little bit here lately, at least in the last couple of years. They had the falling out sort of over there's a legal dispute that occurred back in 2023, a restraining order filed by Hall and Oates. And then now they've split up a little bit and sort of at 76 and 77 now embarking on individual careers, which is, last week we did an episode with Winging on Barbra Streisand, and 60 years of performing for her continues on. And now here are these two guys at 76 and 77, and they're still going at it and performing and taking things to the next level, which I think is pretty cool.
So you bring up something that's interesting to me, the recent spat between them. You see, I totally ignore that because I don't want to know about it. Mm-hmm. I just want to remember them as they were.
Right.
I don't want I don't want to hear about all the baggage and garbage that people bring with them later in life. Let's just go back when things were simpler and you guys, you loved each other and you were just creating magic and great music, and it's like the Beatles breakup and all the disputes with that. No. Let's just go back. We don't have to relive all that.
Did you ever call the Hall and Oates hotline?
No, I never did.
Have you heard about it before?
No.
So it doesn't exist anymore because I tried to call it today, and I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong. Please fact check me if I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure it's now a police station, the number, in Houston somewhere. So I rang 2 or 3 times and didn't immediately go to an automated computer voice. And so I was like, oh, okay, this is probably actually somebody's phone number now. Let me hang up before somebody picks up. But it used to be for quite a while that there was a Hall and Oates hotline that you could call and just you'd get a female automated voice on the other end saying, hey, you called the Hall and Oates hotline, blah, blah, blah. And then you would pick, basically, they would have 4 or 5 songs available for you and just press 1, press 2, and then it just plays whatever that song was. If you're looking for She's Gone, press 2. So I didn't know. This is the first I'd heard about. I heard about it a couple of days ago, and I was like, "Oh wow, no way, we're doing this episode about the abandoned Luncheonette. Let's talk about it."
I had not heard the Hall and Oates hotline. No,
it's gone now, unfortunately. Unless maybe it'll come back though.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We'll see. So I was curious about that. And then the other thing. So 1973. Last time we were talking, the album you were in, was it early high school or middle school?
Oh, it was middle school, junior high. We called it back in the day. Young Grant Hansen. It was called junior high then.
I actually, we still call it junior high.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at Fort Calhoun.
Yeah, middle school.
We didn't, because we didn't have 6th grade involved. It was just 7th and 8th.
So now I've progressed to high school.
And at Lincoln.
73, 74, my sophomore year at Lincoln Northeast High School, which, by the way, the class of 73, I was class of 75. Class of 73 won the state football championship, basketball championship, and baseball championship.
Did you play on any of those teams?
I played reserves, JV. I helped get beat up, on the practice
Scout
field.
team.
Yeah. I took some elbows in the lane, getting them ready.
Were you interested in radio at that time, or were you thinking more on other hobbies or different things?
I think my sophomore year in high school is where the seed was planted. My sophomore year in high school, I was taking a theater drama class, and the regular teacher had an appendectomy or something, and it was a substitute teacher that came in. And I really wish I could remember her name. I really can't. And we were doing oral interpretations that day. Mm-hmm. And so I did mine, sat down, didn't think anything of it. After class, she calls me in. She goes, have you thought about what you're going to do for a career? I said, hey, man, I'm a sophomore in high school. I don't know what I'm going to do. And she goes, no, you really have a nice voice, and you have a nice delivery. You read well. You ought to consider broadcasting. Mm. And that planted the seed.
Were you listening to Lyle Bremser and some of the...
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I wanted to do high school play-by-play, or, just sports and play-by-play at the time when I first thought that's what I wanted to do. Yeah, Lyle Bremser was big on KFAB, and Dick Perry and Don Gill and the Lincoln Markets did all the high school games, and Chuck Stevens did some stuff, some names from the past that some of you will know.
Yeah.
Maybe not others, but so yeah, that's they were kind of iconic to me.
So let's talk just a couple of details on the album before we get into some of the cuts here. So certified platinum, they got there 29 years after it released.
Isn't that interesting? It took that long.
With the re-release and all that sort of stuff, there are other things that we've done, or even think back to Chicago when we did that album with the singles that got re-released later. Mm-hmm. Some of these albums and songs that didn't necessarily catch on right away, but they stuck with it and brought it back out again, and is now iconic, right?
Yeah.
That's really fascinating stuff. Second studio album, most successful with Atlantic Records, and then they shifted over. 29 years after release, we got that with the certified platinum. 189 million listens today on Spotify as of this recording. She's Gone represents 145 million of them. When the Morning Comes is 23 million, and then Had I Known You Better Then is 5 million of those. So there are just kind of the brief rundown of how it's sort of being consumed today. And now we can get to the cuts, and let's start with Lady Rain. And this one is the one that you had requested on the drive home.
Yeah, well, yeah, check it out.
And I love
it's cool.
It's solemn, but you have that groove driving you forward.
That's Oates, John Oates vocal.
It's just sort of, it's an evolution. It's folk, but it's not the same as 10 years earlier,
No.
And then you just have that little descent, and the guitar comes in. It's cool. It's a really cool song. This is one I hadn't heard at all.
And I don't know if they ever released that as a single. I don't think they did,
so.
But they missed it. I think they missed it.
Yeah.
That
was cool.
That's cool. And that was that kind of is an example of when two very talented people come together and write something together and it's balanced. Is probably the most even split between of songwriting that showcases John Oates' voice. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, love that song. Again, and we talked about this before, but I love finding some of these songs that I hadn't heard before, even if I'd heard of the album or the group before, but I hadn't gone and found something like this. So hopefully through these 8 or so episodes we've done now, you've discovered something you didn't know about before. Yeah. Like I even think back to even a couple of weeks ago with Neil, Gold Dust Woman was a song that I had never heard from Fleetwood Mac, and obviously off of a very, very famous album. And that's been an earworm basically with me for a long time. This Lady Rain song, same category.
Yeah, and that's why we call the show Deepcuts.
Yeah.
We're going deep.
Hey folks, while we had a break in the action, Grant Hansen here on Boomer Deepcuts, and I wanted to give you a word from our sponsor, Kohl's Pharmacy and Home Care. Now folks, you have trusted Kohl's with your pharmaceuticals since 1948. They have taken care of you and your family undoubtedly for generations. And did you know they can make your home a safer place to live as well. From chairlifts to ramps, walk-in tubs, and showers, even in-home elevators, they can do a ton for you to make your home a safer place to live with the safety, style, and value that you've come to associate with the Kohl's brand. 402-408-1990, 402-408-1990. That's the number to contact them. You can also visit them on the web. Do your online purchasing there. You can get everything that you would normally get from any of the 3 locations for Kohl's Pharmacy here in Omaha, plus one in Lincoln. You can find all those sorts of things and products online as well. So go online and look up Kohl's Pharmacy and Home Care. They'll get you taken care of. Again, Kohl's Pharmacy and Home Care, safe at home. Well, next on the list, Las Vegas Turnaround.
Yeah.
And this one is maybe a little bit more lighthearted than some of the other ones on here, but this is a really good one too.
It's also called the Stewardess Song.
Yes. And you hear that reference to Sarah. Sarah is fairly important in the life of this band.
Name comes up a few times, doesn't it?
Yeah, at least one more time. Sarah Smile later on. But John Oates met her on a flight, and she mentioned ferrying gambling fools to Las Vegas to him, and they obviously later on had a relationship, and this is where that part of the lyrics come from.
The sax is really good in here too. I don't know if we're going to get to that, but
yeah, I mean, that's another thing too. Like, I come back to that over and over. It's not just drums and guitar and electric guitar, right? Like, there's strings involved, different instruments, different types of percussion. It's not, just a drum set. You have the saxophone that comes on later on in the song.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different elements weaved into the, I guess, orchestration of this whole thing.
Yep. Sarah Allen, a stewardess, and she lives forever now.
Yeah.
Las Vegas Turnaround. The Stewardess Song. All the stewardesses have their own song now.
Now, this next one we can spend probably quite a bit of time on because it's obviously the most famous song from the album. And they would later go on, of course, to fame and a lot of songs that would surpass this one. But from this era of the duo, this is probably the sort of the seminal song of this sort of folky era before they started to become a different sort of group in the 80s.
Yeah, how many songs are there about marital breakups out there? I mean,
a lot.
A lot.
A lot.
A lot. And this is another one, but this is Daryl Hall's breakup.
Sorry, Charlie, for the imposition.
This one cracks me up for another reason, and we'll talk about it afterwards. We're done listening to it, but
Carry on, yeah.
and you think about the lyrics are heavy, but overall, like it's kind of a lighter. It's not necessarily uplifting, but there's a contrast.
She's gone, I better learn how to face. She's gone,
And strings there again.
She's gone, what went wrong?
She's gone. I better learn how to face it.
Yes.
And now I have to move on.
Yes. So here's why this one is funny to me, because they're in very different categories here. So they're both consoling each other, obviously, over heartbreaks. But Daryl had just had a divorce. Meanwhile, John's heartbreak in this case was he was just, at least as far as I've researched, I'm sure there's more context, but he had just been stood up for New Year's Eve. That was his. That was his She's Gone, which, I mean, one is a lot more significant than the other.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah. But it comes in. This is the one that was initially released in 73, didn't chart well. And it came back again 3 years later and was a big hit then.
So they created a music video for this. Did you ever see it? I haven't looked it up, and I'm going to after we're done recording.
Recall.
You don't remember it?
I don't remember it.
One of the first ones that actually got a music video back in 1973. And then obviously hit the re-release. You know, when John Oates was...
It's something that happened, though, Grant, before the re-release that prompted them to re-release it. And that was that it was covered by Tavares and Lou Rawls.
That's right.
They covered it, And then I think Hall and Oates and the record company said, "Now wait a minute. We originally did that,
Right.
Let's re-release this and see what happens."
See what happens.
Yeah.
And good thing they did.
Yes.
When they're talking about John Oates later, looking back on this, said that when you're writing good lyrics, this is a rough paraphrase of the quote, but you're looking for a goal of making something and sharing something about yourself that is very, very personal, and yet finding a way to relate it and make it relatable to the masses. And, that's how you get a classic like this one. I still, I come back to the it's obviously heavy material, but you've kind of got that uplifting or upbeat sort of orchestration and music underneath
just
it.
kind of light and airy. Yeah. That kind of betrays the subject matter.
Yeah. And it's maybe a reflection of kind of what you're saying about the, I know I've got to face it. Like, well, it's maybe the acceptance stage of grief, basically, in that song.
Yeah.
So really, really cool cut on there. And then there are several others here too. We didn't even play number 2 and number 3 on the most popular ones, at least, again, as they're consumed today digitally. But
what are
cool album.
What are those?
When the Morning Comes is number 2, and then Had I Known You Better Then is number 3. Las Vegas Turnaround is right there as number 4, and then Lady Rain is. I'm going to fire from the hip and say number 6.
Yeah, which is
I don't know.
surprising.
I'm not totally sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was, again, like you just go through these, and I think, somewhat lost in all of this is as we move into this digital age, we don't necessarily listen to a whole album in a row.
You know what?
And if you do, you find stuff like this sometimes.
I am glad you said that, because that is so true. We don't hear, the albums were put together to flow. From one cut to the next cut. And there's a lot of thought goes into that. And then you flip it over and then you listen to side 2. And again, a lot of thought goes into how it's all put together. So what I think is interesting on this album, between side 1 and side 2, Chris Bond was a guitarist for Hall and Oates. And he had kind of guided side 2, the songs that were going to be on side 2. And he had quite a bit of a Beatles influence.
That's right.
And a Beatles influence then kind of guided what he was thinking for side 2 of this album. So what would you call it? A Beatlese direction? You could say that. But Daryl Hall, he later referred to it as crap.
Yeah.
He did not like it at all.
He was like, the first side of this is like perfect. And then the second side was just like, I wish we didn't have that influence. Now, if I'm reading this back right, is the red line's the first side, right?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the only one, that's oddly enough, the one that is on side 2 with the Beatles influence is the one that we keep talking about all episode. Lady Rain is on side 2.
Lady Rain, I know. But I just I don't know. There's something that speaks to me about that song. So.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we usually like to wrap up our show talking a little bit about the historical context, for lack of a better word, and some of the things that were going on in November of 1973. So speaking of Beatles and breakups, because 1973 in November, there were 2 Beatles albums that were released by members of the band on their own. Ringo had his 3rd album from Apple Records released on November 2nd, 1973, that was called Ringo, which was probably his biggest commercial success, just as it's viewed today. And then later on in the month, on the 16th, John Lennon's 4th studio album, which was Mind Games, was released in the United Kingdom. So both those Apple Records, both former Beatles, released in that month. We also talked last week with Wiggy and mentioned earlier about Barbra Streisand. One of her CBS specials was November 2nd, Barbra Streisand and Other Musical Instruments. That premiered. On the 7th of 1973, Nixon has his War Powers Act veto. That was vetoed. He vetoed it initially. Congress overrode the veto and the reaction to everything in the wake of the Vietnam War. On November 9th, Billy Joel releases Piano Man in that month. November 20th, 1973, the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving special premieres for the first time on CBS.
That is iconic.
Do you which came, I can't remember. Did Thanksgiving come first for them, or was
Grant, Thanksgiving always comes before Christmas.
Well, yeah, that. But
shock.
The October special, the
Yeah.
Halloween special. Do you remember the Halloween one, or the Thanksgiving one, or the Christmas Charlie Brown special?
You
came
know, I
first?
don't recall which. We'll have to ask Linus.
I know. Yeah, but it's crazy too for me because I think the Thanksgiving one, I think I maybe remember the least, or as being like as much of a tradition as the Christmas one is. I mean, that one is evergreen. I mean, I think we've heard the Linus
The meaning
speech,
of Christmas.
Meaning of Christmas.
I do it every year.
Every year. And that one is really, I think it's pretty important to my dad, and certainly for me too. The Great Pumpkin, I know we've spent a lot of time talking about the Great Pumpkin, more maybe than the Thanksgiving one for whatever reason, but all three, really, really impactful stuff right there from.
So in
from
1973,
CBS.
it was the Thanksgiving that came out.
Yes.
Yeah.
November 21st, 1973, Pete Rose was named the MVP of the National League. Forgive me, but I'm not, I don't remember when the gambling stuff broke for him. That was later on.
Oh, much later.
But,
yes.
And then this last note I thought was interesting, and I don't know if you've heard this story before at all, but have you heard the name of Scott Halpin before?
Sounds familiar.
Scott was a 19-year-old drummer from Muscatine, Iowa, and he actually played one night with The Who as their drummer for one evening because Keith Moon, who's the original drummer, had passed out from drugs and alcohol, and so they were in Oakland, California, and they were mid-set, and they needed somebody to step up from the audience and play drums. And so they asked, hey, can anybody play the drums here? I need somebody good. That was Townshend who asked that, Pete Townshend. And then Halpin came up there and he finished the whole concert.
And finished the show. Wow. I heard that.
I've not heard any of that sort of stuff before. I was digging around. I was like, what was going on in November of 1973? So that was another little nugget there. Yeah. So crazy month and a really cool album with a lot of hidden gems on it there that hopefully we unearthed for you here in this episode.
I think so. A little Philly sound with a blue-eyed soul and just something kind of really clean about the whole thing. Yeah, very good.
Any final thoughts for you, Jack?
I just appreciate deep cuts, and being able to do a deeper dive. And thank you to Coles for, helping make all this happen.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, couldn't do it without them. And all these great songs we talk about, we play on Boomer Radio. And so encourage everybody, if you're not a regular Boomer with us, come on. And my show, 3 to 6, we give you a chance to request some of these great songs. We actually do some deep cuts every now and then.
I think you're selling yourself short. You play a lot of good hits, but if you want to discover something new from this era of the 70s and the 60s and up to 82.
Well, we go into the 50s and so we'll even play. We played the original Tiptoe Through the Tulips from 1928
wow.
in the past week. 28, I think that was the year, something like that. Igor found a really good copy of it from deep in the archive room. And before Tiny Tim had done it, it was done years before that. So we played a little bit of that.
You will find something new. Like somebody in the audience is guaranteed to request something every week that you had never heard before, and you'll hear the hits that you love too. So tune in 3 to 6 Boomer Radio.
To drive home and keep booming, my friend.
Yeah, let's keep on booming. And hopefully you'll join us next week for another episode of Boomer Deep Cuts.